Cadena W, un personaje en el mundo.
9:04 a.m, volvemos a la tragedia que vive Oriente Medio, especialmente en este momento en la Franja de Gaza. Nos atiende el doctor Salam Fayyad. El doctor Fayyad fue primer ministro de la Autoridad Palestina por más de 6 años. También fue ministro de Finanzas y fue representante residente del Fondo Monetario Internacional en Cisjordania y en la Franja de Gaza. Conoce el tema como pocos. Hoy, el doctor Fayyad es profesor en la Universidad de Princeton. Dr. Fayyad, good morning and welcome to W Radio.
Good afternoon to you.
La primera pregunta, Ana, por favor, para el doctor Fayyad, es si se puede considerar la teoría del señor Netanyahu, y es que acabando con Gaza se acaba con Hamas. Él piensa que la destrucción de Gaza garantiza la destrucción de Hamas.
Dr. Fayyad, let's begin by asking you, what do you consider about the theory of Prime Minister Netanyahu? He believes that destroying Gaza, he destroys Hamas. Do you agree with him that the total destruction of Gaza would mean a total destruction of Hamas?
Obviously not. And the objective that Mr. Netanyahu had set out at the beginning, from the outset, was to destroy Hamas completely, to eradicate it and all. And I obviously disagree with that. And as a political movement, anyone would tell you that as a political movement with an ideology, with ideas, it cannot be destroyed or eliminated. So I never really invested in what he said at the outset and that, because it's impossible. But what this campaign has translated into is a campaign against the Palestinian people living in Gaza. All you need to do is to watch for yourself and see thousands of people already perished, many more injured, and many are dying by the minute, by the hour, every day. That is what's going on. This is definitely something that must stop and stop immediately.
Obviamente es algo que no va a ocurrir, no van a eliminar a Hamas como movimiento político atacando la Franja de Gaza o destruyendo la Franja de Gaza. El objetivo que se ha trazado Netanyahu es de destruir Hamas y erradicarlo, y está en desacuerdo, por supuesto, con esto, porque como movimiento político e ideología no va a ser eliminado, no se va a poder acabar, es imposible lo que propone. Entonces lo que está haciendo es más bien atacando civiles, matando a muchas personas, y es algo que él cree que debe parar porque hay muchos heridos y muchos muertos ahora mismo en la Franja de Gaza.
Nuestro invitado acaba de publicar un artículo para la revista Foreign Affairs titulado Un plan para la paz en Gaza. ¿En qué consiste este plan y cómo nos lo podría resumir?
You just published an article in Foreign Affairs in which you mention a plan for peace in Gaza. Can you share with us how would that plan work?
Yes, surely. In case what I said before in response to the first question was not clear enough, let me just go back to that very quickly and emphasize that the conflict, as Israel has sought to portray from the beginning, as one between Israel on the one hand and Hamas on the other, that is definitely the wrong way of projecting it. It's a conflict between Israel and the Palestinian people. It should be clear, and that's what's going on right now. Now, to your question as to what it is that I had in mind in that article, there I talked about the need, first and foremost, to bring this mad dash to hell to a stop immediately. Basically, I'm most concerned with the need to bring this war of aggression to an end now, immediately. That really is the primary focus, and I had made some suggestions toward that end. It also was an opportunity for me to provide a personal perspective, my own, on what needs to be taken into consideration, discussed, against the backdrop of beginning of conversations here and there, think tank community, analysts, policymakers, maybe in capitals around the world, raising the question, what it is that can be done in the so-called day after. Again, to me, the most important thing is for that day after to happen, and happen immediately, before there can be any consideration what needs to happen. But in that article, I sought to underscore what I thought would not work and should not be considered. And here I basically pointed to two possibilities. One, the idea that first you need to subjugate the Palestinian people and then impose on them an arrangement after you subjugate them. That, I said, is something that ought not be considered at all, because the obvious thing it means is far more personal casualties than has happened, and what has happened has been going on at a catastrophic scale, and everybody should know that. So I sought to basically get people who are really thinking about this issue to understand that a solution imposed on the Palestinian people after subjugating them should not be considered at all. The other idea that was being discussed here and there, we hear people saying something about it, was that the Palestinian Authority, as currently constituted or configured, can assume the responsibility for managing the affairs of Palestinian people in Gaza, again, day after, in brackets, going forward. That idea, I thought, is not something that should not be considered too much. The reason is that apart from the question of whether or not the PA would be willing to assume that responsibility, is the important question of its ability. The question, is the Palestinian Authority, as currently constituted or configured, able to assume that responsibility?
Let me translate that really quickly, please. I'm sorry.
Yes.
Let me translate that. Nos decía que no había sido a lo mejor claro en la respuesta anterior y quería agregar que esta no es una guerra entre Israel y Hamás. Dice que es una forma incorrecta de proyectarlo. Es una guerra más bien entre Israel y los palestinos, lo que está ocurriendo ahora. Y ya adentrándose al artículo por el que se preguntaba, nos dice que habla de la necesidad de acabar con esta agresión a la Franja de Gaza. Ahora ese debe ser el foco principal, cómo se acaba con estos ataques por parte de Israel a la Franja de Gaza. Nos dice que eso es lo más importante y también nos dice que menciona dos enfoques que no están funcionando sobre este conflicto. Y son dos posibilidades que han estado latentes, y es la idea de subyugar o imponer cierto régimen a las personas que están en la Franja de Gaza. Eso es algo que él no considera apropiado. Dice que es obvio que entre más muertos haya en palestinos y en la Franja de Gaza, más muertos de palestinos haya, pues más difícil va a llegar a esa solución, una solución de imponer y subyugar a ese pueblo que está ahí. Y otra idea que no considera apropiada es que la autoridad palestina pues asuma la responsabilidad de la Franja de Gaza. Dice que no es una posibilidad, una idea que se pueda considerar mucho.
Entonces, ¿cuál sería, Grace? Si no es la autoridad palestina, si no es otra autoridad, ¿quién podría tomar el control de Gaza? ¿En manos de quién debería quedar Gaza? Dr. Fayyad, as you were saying, the Gaza cannot end up being the responsibility of the Palestinian Authority. So, under whose responsibility could it end up being? Who should be responsible of Gaza after all of this ends?
Yeah, the natural thing is for the Palestinian Authority to assume that responsibility, because the Palestinian Authority, when it came into existence back in 1994, that was its purview, to manage the affairs of the Palestinian people in the territory occupied by Israel in 1967, including Gaza. Now, that ceased to be the case to the extent it needed to be as of 2007. Everybody knows that. And so it's natural to think this way. My point was simply that the PA, as it currently stands, with the state of weakness that it ended up in after the failure of the political process, peace process, so-called, over 3 decades to deliver on its promise of Palestinian statehood by 1999, did not pan out. And over 3 decades, actually, since 1993, it continued to fail and fail miserably. Any prospect of that emerging is something that no Palestinian I know continue to really subscribe to. That actually weakened the Palestinian Authority, and more importantly, the PLO, which is the mother essentially of the PA. So my idea was, all right, yes, the PA, as it currently constituted in the state of weakness and lack of political viability because of what I have mentioned, it needs to be reconfigured and reconstituted before it can assume that responsibility. Now, that does not necessarily have to take that much time. What is required is immediate action on the part of us Palestinians to expand the PLO to include all factions all Palestinian factions and political forces, so that all points of view are represented on the table of the PLO. That means including Hamas, Islamic Jihad, and others who are not included, those who actually beg to differ with the paradigm the PLO entered into back in 1993. That is very important for the system to be inclusive in order for it to really be what it is said to be, the sole legitimate representative of the Palestinian people. That's critical. But that PLO then is to consent to a government, a PA government, that is to be tasked by everybody, to manage the affairs of Palestinian people in Gaza and West Bank.
Thank you. Pues nos dice que lo natural y lo obvio es que la autoridad palestina asuma esa responsabilidad. Esa fue su razón de ser y es lo lógico, pero el punto es que la autoridad Palestina está muy débil ahora mismo. Nos dice que ha fracasado durante 3 décadas en lograr un acuerdo de paz. Sus promesas no han resultado bien. Entonces nos dice que no es viable políticamente la idea de que la autoridad palestina asuma ese control de la Franja de Gaza. Ahora mismo es un movimiento político que está demasiado debilitado. Entonces por eso la propuesta de él es lograr un consenso para que así sea mucho más viable, que incluya a todas las facciones palestinas. Por ejemplo, Hamas, por ejemplo, la Yihad Islámica, que son grupos que pueden diferir de la visión que tiene la autoridad palestina, pero cree que lograr ese diálogo y ese consenso sería lo ideal para poder llegar a una solución que incluya a todas las facciones políticas, a todas las fuerzas y que todos se vean representados.
El número de muertos pues ya pasa a la barrera de los 11.000 en Gaza, se acerca a los 12.000. ¿Cuál cree que, por supuesto hay muchas críticas a Israel por los bombardeos, la forma como ha desbaratado, destrozado Gaza, pero cuál sería para él una respuesta proporcional por los atentados del 7 de octubre?
It's close to 12,000 right now. And of course, there's been a lot of critics towards Israel because of the bombarding and how they have destroyed Gaza. In your opinion, what would have been a good response, an appropriate, a proportional response by Israel given October 7th attacks?
Well, let me say immediately in response to the comment you made on question that actually that criticism, number one, is well placed, but number two, it's way less than where the international community should be on putting pressure on Israel to stop this war of aggression, to bring it to an end. That really is the priority. So, yeah, there is a lot of criticism, but here I draw a distinction between criticism expressed by the masses everywhere throughout the world, massive demonstrations, including in Spain and Europe, other parts of Europe, the United States, all places around the world, hundreds of thousands of people are out really demonstrating and protesting the continuation of the war and calling for a ceasefire immediately. It's a ceasefire now. In many countries, unfortunately, and I'm pleased, as a matter of fact, with statements made by Spanish officials on this issue, and I think they really need to work harder with their colleagues in the EU to really put the foot down and say, enough already. There is, number one, there is no proportionality. I don't know if there is at all any possibility of thinking how can this massive war machine of destruction that Israel possesses, the minute it is deployed, how can it be anything but disproportionate? And then what is really important is for Israel to understand, to be made to understand that, number one, this is an exercise in futility. Number two, that war crimes are being committed, and therefore this cannot really be allowed to continue. There is a very, very, I think, well-placed call throughout the world for this war of aggression to come to an end. And then we definitely need to address the causes, the underlying causes of this. I called the attack on Israel on October 7 a case of the expected happening unexpectedly. What do I mean by that? Expected in the sense of Palestinian people enduring the oppression and capriciousness of an occupation regime for many, many, many decades, Gaza in particular under siege, West Bank raids, settler violence and outright terrorism, Aqsa Mosque under assault, and all of that. For how much longer could that have continued without there be instability? So unless the world turns very quickly its attention to the root causes of this, I think anything that Israel does violently cannot by definition be but disproportionate. I think it's about time, and this is not the first round of escalation that happened. Since 2006, there have been several of those. Obviously, the ongoing war is the most devastating of all, and it risks actually doing a lot of harm in addition to that which it has already done in terms of loss of life, massive loss of life, the destruction of residential structures and what have you. 70% of Gaza population have been internally displaced. Mm-hmm. And they have no homes to go back to. There's no water, there's no electricity, not the most basic of amenities of life.
Yes.
So that's what we're really looking at.
Sure. Well, Dr. Salam Fayyad, thank you so much for your time in W Radio. It's been a pleasure having you today in our show.
Thank you, madam. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. We really appreciate it. Pues nos dice que la comunidad internacional debe parar esta agresión como prioridad. Muchos están criticando. Hay muchas demostraciones masivas en Estados Unidos, en Europa. Cientos de miles de personas están saliendo a las calles a protestar, a rechazar esto, a pedir un cese al fuego. Pero nos dice que la comunidad internacional debe trabajar más fuerte y pedir que pare ya Israel esta agresión contra la franja de Gaza. Nos dice que la Unión Europea debe decir que ya es suficiente porque por supuesto que no hay proporcionalidad. Nos dice que cómo hay proporcionalidad con la destrucción y las armas que posee Israel. Nos dice que no se puede hablar de proporcionalidad con todo el equipamiento y armamento que ellos tienen. Israel debe entender que lo que están haciendo es crímenes de guerra, que están cometiendo crímenes de guerra y que no deben continuar haciendo esto. Y para él la solución está en las causas del conflicto, porque se dice que este ataque contra Israel fue inesperado, pero realmente lo que él dice es que era muy esperado en el sentido de que los palestinos llevan cuánto tiempo oprimidos en la franja de Gaza, muchas décadas en esta situación de violencia, de opresión. ¿Por cuánto tiempo más podría continuar esa situación? Entonces, para él, la solución está en prestar atención a las raíces y a la causa de lo que ocasiona este conflicto, porque cualquier respuesta violenta por parte de Israel es desproporcionada. Nos dice que no es la primera escalada, obviamente esta ha sido la peor en cuanto a pérdidas de vidas humanas, una destrucción sin precedentes, 70% de desplazados internos, sin agua y sin electricidad, y la situación que ya conocemos en la que vive ahora mismo la franja de Gaza.